Welcome to Vintage SF. I'm Richard Rempel, and today we're going to have a look at a follow-up video of sorts to my Arkham House video from Monday. I've brought in a number of rare books. In fact, I have a crate of them here. And one in particular that I think people are waiting for is to talk about this one. So I'm just going to give you a little preliminary information, and then we're going to get right into that Stephen King book. I volunteer for the Children's Hospital Book Market. We receive donations of books, we sort them, and then we prepare them for sales, 2 in a year, in April and in September. These sales take over all the aisles of the St. Vital shopping mall, and we sell things by genre. I work, of course, with science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Because these sales last 3 or 4 days, we price books so that they can move. We really want to convert these donated books into cash for a donation to the Children's Hospital. So we need to price them, as I said, to move. So that means old hardcovers are generally between $2 to $5. Something that's a bit newer, that might be, say, since 2000, might be between $5 to $10. But what about those collectibles? Well, I've been helping in identifying some of these collectibles, and of course, they have some people on staff that do so as well. Last video, I discovered a couple books that I purchased for $2 were actually worth more than that. I returned those books because I want to make sure that they get the maximum value for it, because this is for the Children's Hospital. Today, I want to show you a number of books, some that I've discovered, some that they have already discovered, and in particular, there's one here that is quite valuable. We'll take a look at these books, and then I want to talk about what the possible valuation of these books is, and how perhaps you could get your hands on some of the more expensive ones. So let's get started with Stephen King's The Dark Tower, The Gunslinger. This is a first print that has illustrations by Michael Whelan. Now, I'm going to try to show some of the condition. So there is a Brodart cover on here. That's the plastic cover on top. You can see that there's a chip out of here and a little bit of creasing down here. There's a bit of a spine fade, and you can see a little bit of chipping down here and at the top as well. The cover itself, though, is in pretty good shape. Let me take a closer look. Just a tiny bit here where it goes into the spine of chipping. And at the top here, just a little bit as well. If we open it up, let's take a look at the book without the dust jacket. So it is a maroon colored one. I'm specifying these things because this indicates the value of this book. And it's in very good shape. There's a little bit of wear here at the bottom. Just a minor bit at the top. And here we start to have, in the end paper, some of the artwork from Michael Whelan. This is not a signed copy. The person who did own it, though, had a stamp for his library. So it's JLW, Library of JLW, and then that person's name. Here we can see the title page. Donald M. Grant is the publisher. This is from 1982. And here's probably the important thing for collectors to see. So we have The Dark Tower, The Gunslinger, copyright 1982 by Stephen King, printed in the United States of America, first edition. Illustrations copyright 1982 by Michael Whelan, and there's a trade edition and deluxe editions. Now, there were signed editions with Stephen King and Michael Whelan signatures. Of course, those will be worth more. I thought perhaps you'd like to see some of these illustrations, so let's go to them. So there's the title page for The Gunslinger. We have a black and white illustration to get started with the crow on the shoulder of the Gunslinger. My understanding is that the text has been updated for this, so this is the original text from the original edition. Turning to page 65 for our first illustration. And we see a line of people who met up with the gunslinger and didn't fare so well. Then we get to the way station. That reminds me of Clifford D. Simak with his novel from 1963. Sitting outside that shed in the middle of that desert. I have read this book before. Next illustration. The next one is a double page illustration. Just beautiful. We get to the slow mutants. And this is the illustration that is on the cover of the book as well. And one more. This is the illustration that is on the back of the book. I think you can see, even on this video here, that the outline of the dark tower in the distance beyond the sunset. There we have a first edition of The Dark Tower, The Gunslinger. What I did with these books is I did look online, some of the places, but I have a friend who is actually a book dealer of his own who sells books. His name is Chris. He has a channel called Liminal Spaces. So he and I had a long phone call where we went through all the books I'm going to talk about today and looked at what potentially could be a valuation for these. Now, as I said, the Children's Hospital book market likes to price things so that they move quickly. When it comes to eventually putting them online, we're working on a charitable eBay account. And on that eBay account, we will put some sort of a minimum bid on these valuable items. And then, of course, put it up for auction. I'd like to give you a warning before any of that happens. It could be a month from now, could be a couple of months from now. But just to let you know, why am I giving this sort of long preamble here? Well, this book might be worth more than you think it is. In fact, if we had a signed copy, it's probably the most sought after Stephen King book of all, even higher than that of that paperback version of Rage. But a first edition without those signatures that has some wear along the dust jacket bottom and top. Chris and I were looking at approximately $1,500 to $2,000 American for it. That's right. And we would like to make sure that the Children's Hospital book market gets the maximum value possible. So there'll be some sort of minimum that is set, and then there will be bidding on it. So if you're here just because you saw the gunslinger in the thumbnail, that's it for that part of it. You might want to subscribe to the channel, though, to watch for a thumbnail where we'll announce the launch of the eBay store for the charity. Now on to the rest of the books. Since we're with Donald M. Grant as publisher right now, I've got a couple more that I want to show you. This one I actually showed you last time, Out of the Storm, William Hope Hodgson. This is from 1977, I believe I'd said. 1975. And I'd show you some illustrations from here. So if you want to see that, you can go back to the previous video. But instead of $2, a valuation for this one that Chris and I came up with was approximately $30 US. What we typically do for the sales here in Canada is we look at the value in Canadian dollars. Let's say this is perhaps about $40 or so. And then we knock that down maybe to about 60% to try to move it quickly. So I'm not in charge of that final price, but I just want to let you know what you're looking at here. Now, some of these books will go to the sale depending on that final price. Others will save for the eBay store. Another one that's actually quite exciting, especially since there's some events being planned for this author, is Robert E. Howard's Singers in the Shadows. This is by Donald M. Grant, the publisher. And this is a very short collection of poetry by Robert E. Howard. This is copyright 1970. And here you can see the contents. And there are black and white illustrations within. This slim little volume was valued at approximately $75 US. So in the future, we'll set a minimum bid for this and put it onto our eBay store. Those are the Donald M. Grant ones that I pulled from Children's Hospital Book Market. Let's go back now to Arkham House. In the last video, I showed you 3 books, and I found one more. So let me quickly give you the valuations for the 3 I showed you, and then we'll talk about the next one. There was this collection of The Horror at Oakdean and Other Stories. This is by Brian Lumley. This one is valued at approximately $50. This one here I'm tempted to try to get as well. It's Nameless Places. It's an anthology of stories edited by Gerald W. Page. This one we value at approximately $25. Watchers at the Straight Gate, Russell Kirk. This is the newest book I'm going to show you today. I believe it's 1984, 85, 84. And this one here we have valued at, again, $25. The one that is new to viewers of my channel, to regular viewers, is The Caller of the Black. This is another Brian Lumley book. Very good shape, except for staining. But if you look inside, you'll see that it's in really good shape. And this one was published, there's the Arkham House logo, and it was published in 1971. We'll show you the copyright here. This one has no illustrations, but it might be the rarer one of the 4. It's approximately $75 for valuation. By the way, if you have information about the pricing of these books, I'd love to hear if you think the valuation that we've set is too high, too low, or what you think some of these books have sold for in the past. All right, moving on. Another very interesting one is Gnome Press. We have an old book from Gnome Press. They were a small press established in the 1950s for printing science fiction and fantasy books. This one does not have a Brodart cover on it right now. We might put one on for sale. Address Centauri by F.L. Wallace. For a book this old, the dust jacket's in reasonable shape. You can see here a fold. Now, here's the problem. Interior is a little bit used, and there's a line crossing out potentially person who had purchased that book. I see that I think either it was withdrawn from a collection of a certain person or even from some sort of library. So there is some damage to this book because of that. But otherwise, maybe a little foxing. You can see that line there on top. So this is a bit of a rough copy. It's from 1955. We put a valuation of $25 on this one. Moving on, we have one from Tom Stacey Publisher. This is a UK publication. The Human Chord by Algernon Blackwood. This is from 1972. This is in very good shape. Almost like new. The only bends that we see here is the Brodart. The dust jacket itself is preserved. There's the information. 1972 from Tom Stacey Reprints Limited. Printed in Great Britain. This is one of those hardcovers we have automatically priced at $2, but it's worth a bit more. The valuation we have put on this one is $25. All right, I have 3 more books to show you. Another science fiction book from the mid-50s from Shasta Publishing. Empire of the Atom by A.E. Van Vogt. Now the dust jacket looks great, but it's a bit offset. You can see it's kind of folded incorrectly around the spine. If we come inside, there's a bit of a timeline here for the story itself. The dust jacket looks to be in good condition. And there's the logo for Shasta Publishers. Looks like either a dragon or a dinosaur reading. And this one is from 1956. This one is in much better shape overall than the Gnome Press one. But as I said, there is this fold around the spine here. I'm not sure if that can be corrected by pressing it properly. The valuation? This one is just a $2 to $5 book. It should be featured in our April 2026 sale. Another book that I pulled is the oldest one here. It is from 1930. It kind of looks like it could be a science fiction novel, but it's not really. It's an adventure story, perhaps even a boy's adventure story. Flight of the Silver Ship. And you can see here, it says Mystery and Adventure Series number 3. It's from Saulfield Press. And it has the cover on the back as well. The dust jacket's in pretty good shape for something from 1930. You can see a little wear here inside the spine. We actually have the valuation here already. This one's going to be $10, and it will be at the sale. A nice illustration of the dirigible. Around the world aboard a giant dirigible. That's what this story is about. And if you can read Roman numerals, you'll see it's from 1930. Flipping through it, I don't see any illustrations within, but it's rather large font. So if you're interested in just getting a really old book for a decent price, I think $10 is quite reasonable for a 1930s book in this condition. And the last one is an omnibus of science fiction stories. Omnibus of Science Fiction 43 Foremost Stories from Groff Conklin from 1952. Wow, really good shape here for this one. And of course within there's some yellowing. There's a red text block at the top. We have deckled edge here. There's a bit of a stain at the end there. And as it says, we have 43 stories in here. So the book itself is copyright 1952, and then you get a large list of stories and what magazine they appeared in. Groff Conklin was a very respected editor in the 1950s and into the 1960s. This book here, no special valuation on this one. It's going to be a $2 to $5 book in the book sale in April 2026. That'll be in the St. Vital Mall. Now, if you're still with me, you might want to subscribe if you would like further information for when books become available or for this book sale as it comes up. I volunteer there, but I love to show you some of these things. I'm also wanting to know, would you in the future like me to pull books from our warehouse and show them to you before they go on sale? We have a lot of vintage paperbacks and a lot of new science fiction as well. So I had a lot of fun chatting with Chris of Liminal Spaces about these books. I'd visited him in Albuquerque. By the way, this shirt here is from the radio telescope site outside of Albuquerque, where they have 27 radio telescopes in 3 large lines of 9. And this is called the Very Large Array. You may know it from the movie Contact or from the very first episode of Pluribus. So this was my Albuquerque themed shirt that I wore for this video since I'd worked with Chris on evaluation of these books. Now it's over to you. Very curious to see what you have to say in the comments. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep looking for books and, of course, keep reading.